Welcome to Ocala Hustle. Today our guest is Rondo Fernandez, owner and operator of Mojo's, one of the most popular restaurants in town. Maybe the most popular restaurant in town.
Here's the hoping.
Yep, awesome. So just a quick introduction to Rondo. 4 kids, 4 restaurants, a large catering company.
Yes, sir.
Very active in charitable work.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what am I leaving out? I'm exhausted just talking about it.
Football coach.
Football coach,
yes,
yep, that's right. So you're coaching D-line this year?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Did you play?
I did. Played at Lake Weir, man.
And you played on the defensive line, offensive line?
I played both, mostly offensive line.
Awesome.
Yes,
And
sir.
your son's playing D-line?
He's playing both.
He's playing both.
Yes, sir.
Chip off the old block.
That he is.
And wrestling?
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that you guys wrestle in the kitchen, right?
We do.
Or around the house.
That we do.
Is he getting a leg up on the old man?
Not yet. He's close. I got about another year.
And he's how old?
He just turned 15 yesterday.
My 16-year-old's playing football.
Yeah.
He came up behind me the other day and like gripped me like this, and I thought, well, that's cute. And I tried to get out, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
And so I'm back in the gym now.
Well, I fight dirty.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
You have to as a father, man. You got pressure points, and you got to learn the
Awesome.
immediately release buttons.
He will not win. I got the will. That's the difference. I've got the will.
They also make 2x4s.
Yeah. The good point. That's right. So now, you had mentioned when we spoke before that you've kind of always had this drive and hustle. So talk to me a little bit about growing up. You didn't grow up around here, right? You grew up in Miami?
Yeah, I moved up here when I was 12.
Okay.
But my whole life I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial brain.
Mm-hmm.
Even at school I was looking for ways to make money. I would take my lunch money and go to the gas station on the way to school.
Yeah.
Even as a kid in elementary school, I would stop and I would get a bunch of candy with my lunch money, and then I would turn that into profit. Making cinnamon toothpicks and atomic fireballs and now laters and the Jolly Rancher sticks.
Do kids make the cinnamon sticks anymore? I remember those toothpicks.
I don't think they do.
That was the jam.
I was selling for 10 for $1, man.
Awesome.
And so just my whole life, I've always been looking for ways to make money and to be financially independent.
Right.
You're coming into my first in 6th grade. My mom was a waitress at night and a bartender at night. So I took a job selling candy. I was one of those kids that walked door to door selling a tote. I'd get in this little creepy looking white van. And I must have been, maybe 11 years old. And she'd drop me off in the middle of Opelika. And
it's crazy.
It is, man. I go door to door and I would sell the little truffles and the mints and the peanut clusters, and I would sell out, and she'd drive me off home and give me my little bit of cash. So my whole life, I've been doing things like that. If there's a down part of my day or down part of my whatever season I'm in, I would find a way to make money.
Right. So did you feel like you learned a lot about sales in that candy selling business when you were a kid?
Yeah, you had no choice,
right?
So we didn't get paid anything unless we sold candy. So they gave us a little spiel on paper that we were supposed to read, and I think it was all a scam, anyways.
Right.
But and you just had to try different tactics for different people, and at 11 years old, I learned how to to do those types of things.
It's crazy.
And it's really daunting to be 11 years old and. In Opelika, I'm not sure if you know too much about Opelika, but it's not the picturesque suburbs that you would think it would be. And knock on a door and you have no idea who's going to answer it or how they're going to react. Or luckily I had a big smile and my little sales pitch, and I was successful.
So you learned what worked for you. Then did that translate later in life where you felt like, okay, that really set a base for me to learn how to?
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about it, but now that you go back and look at it, how could it not?
Right.
It's almost kind of like knocking door to door to preach the gospel makes you a better preacher at some point in time in your life, because you're taking down. You're not going to be shy once you go door to door. Once you do that door to door thing. Any shyness or inhibitions you may have is right out the window,
Well, I know for me when I first started my business, my background's always been in operations, and I was kind of a, if you build it, they will come thought process. Like if you have a smooth and good operation, people will come knock on your door. No, that's not the case. Sales is a very challenging undertaking. And so it's taken me all these years to learn it. So I think maybe that was a really good base for you to be an entrepreneur, is learning that early on, how challenging sales can be and learning what works for you. So when did you know that you wanted to own your own restaurant?
Ever since I was a kid.
Okay.
My mom used to take me to work with her sometimes to her family restaurant that she worked at. And she would give me my Matchbox cars, my coloring book, and put me in a closet called the dry storage closet. It's not really a closet, more of a room. And for those of you who don't know, the dry storage closet, it's everything that's not fun in a restaurant, right? It's the mops and the towels and the paper goods. And never been a good listener, right? I've always struggled with authority. And so I would sneak out in the dining room. And if you can remember as a kid, have you ever played waiter?
Sure.
I did that in real life. So I would go to a table at 6, 7 years old, and I was a cute little blonde kid, believe it or not. And
you weren't always bald.
No, sir. And I realized at a young age that I love serving people, and the more I made them smile, the more they gave me money. So I was telling jokes that I heard at show and tell. I was telling whatever I could, and just trying to make their day.
Sure.
And my presence would make them happy, and I just love that feeling to serve people and to make them happy. So I knew my whole life that this is what I want to do. Remember, I was addicted to making money, so I was like, man, this is exciting stuff. By serving people, by making them laugh, by bringing them food, I can make a pretty good living. And then my mom, as we moved up and as I got older, any restaurant she'd ever worked at that needed an extra hand, I was the lucky guy. And I say lucky guy in a very sarcastic way.
Sure.
But, sometimes it was washing dishes and doing the worst of the worst jobs at the restaurant. And while I was kicking and screaming back then, it's some of the most valuable working experience that I could ever recommend anybody having.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. It's one of the things we had talked about was that, you can do and have done every single job in your restaurants.
Yes, sir.
So, if somebody's not telling you something that's right, when something's off because you've done it. So what was your journey then in the restaurant world? Like when did you get your, first job as a waiter, and then how did that kind of progress?
Yeah, I've always been in a restaurant with my mom being there. So even through high school, I would bust tables on the weekends. I was her back waiter. She worked at a fine dining place in Leesburg, and when I moved away from her, I applied at 2 locations the same exact day that they were opening up. One was the Ocala Ale House, and one was in the Villages. Okay. And the Ale House didn't hire me, so I went to work in the Villages, and I started off busting tables and like I said, I was addicted to money. So I was a hustler, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I was almost waiting on the tables for my servers. I was serving the tables for my servers. And as a busser, I was making really good money. I mean, I was to the fact that my servers didn't really have to do anything but just be personable to the tables because I wanted them to make the money, because the more money they made, the more money I made. Yeah. And then finally I got my first job to serve tables, my first shot at it. From a busser, you always want to, move up. Right. And so I was real nervous. I remember talking to my mom. I was real nervous that first day. And she goes, "You got to be kidding me. Why are you nervous?"
Right. No kidding. You've done it your whole life.
Yes, sir. So I started waiting tables in the Villages, and it was awesome. It was fun. It was exciting. But I always knew I wanted to open up my own restaurant. Mm-hmm. So even though I was waiting tables as a full-time job, waiting tables, because I had kids at a very young age. Mm-hmm. So even when I was busting tables, I was raising my kid,
right.
So even though I knew I was doing a full-time job. The Villages put me through culinary school in Eustis. It was Lake Votech. And so I'd work full-time serving, and then it was an apprenticeship program.
Okay.
So we had to cook in different restaurants. So I would go and cook and learn the kitchen.
Like different culinary style restaurants, or was it just different similar?
Yeah, all the restaurants in the Villages back then were We're similar, right? They're all kind of country clubs,
Right.
So, but I've always so we had to cook at school, and then we also had to cook in the restaurant as well, and just try to learn from as many people as possible. I've seen owners, I've seen managers be handcuffed by employees because they don't know how to do that job.
Oh, sure.
It's hard to hold somebody accountable when you can't tell them to go home.
Definitely.
Yeah. And plus, it's a respect builder. I love cooking with my guys. I love grinding with them, banging with them, whatever you want to call it, because that builds respect. We opened up Leesburg. I cooked. I didn't leave the kitchen for the first 2 weeks. Cooking with those guys,
right?
And just trying to gain their respect, and plus we had to. It was
right.
It was
but I'm sure it built a great base relationship with this kind of restaurants geographically, away from you. Right.
Yeah, it's not normal that the owner comes and cooks with you.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't get to do it so much now, but it's something that I miss.
Right.
Sorely.
Yeah. So I know that you celebrated 11 years recently. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Incredible. Just coincidentally, I think you opened in July of 2009. We started in August of 2009. So we're coming up on 11 years.
Yeah.
But you say you miss cooking. I remember coming through the small restaurant and seeing you behind the grill. And that was always so cool. So that gets a little ahead of us. So then I can't imagine. So you're working as a busser and then as a waiter with a family to support, and then you're going to open a restaurant. Man, so how did you put all that together to be able to open the restaurant?
Yeah, well, I left the Villages in '99, and I got hired by the Ale House.
Yeah.
and it was pretty crazy how I started to succeed in the Ale House. I went from kind of being a nobody in the Ocala area to having the busiest section. Basically, my section at the Ale House was Mojo's.
Yeah.
And I always knew I would tell people every single day. I mean, you can talk to people now and they're like, man, I heard it so much I just stopped believing it, But so I met some people at the Ale House that just kind of believed in me and said, man, if you ever go to start something, we'll partner up with you and start something. So my last year at the Ale House, my guys were making Rondo's food.
Right.
So I was teaching the kid. One of the guys was my roommate. The main kitchen guy was my roommate, and I was teaching the Ale House kitchen staff how to make my food. Yeah. And I would try it out on the guys. Hey, try this. When I open up Rondo's, I'm going to have this and this.
Well,
and
it's
this.
crazy to me. So when was your last? What was the last year you were at the Ale House?
2005.
I mean, so that's been 15 years. I still see people comment in your Facebook feed and stuff about being at the Ale House. So, I mean, you made an impression on people clearly. So you were putting out there that, hey, I'm going to open a restaurant. And the plan wasn't there, but by putting that out there, you connected with folks that helped you make that happen. That's pretty cool.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so then 2005, we opened up Rondo's, which is a little spot across from the mall there.
I remember it.
And it quickly rose to being very popular. But that was a lot of hard work, man. I mean, I remember me and my entire staff, we didn't have social media back then.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So MySpace didn't even start yet.
Yeah.
So no Facebook, no Twitter, none of that. So our social media was texting people. So I remember sitting there with my staff. We'd have about 6 of us. We'd be out in the dining room just texting everybody we could to come visit. And then, and even the first day we opened, I didn't even have recipes down for my stuff. So if somebody ordered something, my cook would be, hey man, how does that made? So I would just make it for them right then and there. And it was just a challenging time, but we got to be very successful very quick. And we opened up our second location, which was absolutely crazy, nuts, busy. And just lost focus, man. Started believing the hype, letting a bad culture set around me, letting the bar business. If you're not careful in the bar business, the bad culture can get set in really, really quick.
So that's something I don't have any exposure to, but I guess that makes sense. So you just have to be really guarded about how that grows, because you want your bar to be full every night, but you have to be careful about kind of how it's filling up.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be sober too, right? So I had a bad problem with that, So I would work hard at about 5 or 6, and that was clock out time for me. And then I would start throwing a party, and I was always really, really good at throwing a party.
Yeah.
And you can't manage a business drunk. I'm a true testament to that. I would have managers working, but you can't be a business owner and you can't be not focused when you're in your business. And that was a big lesson for me. And I lost focus on my dream. I set a bad culture around me. I wasn't doing the right things. And ultimately in September 27th, 2007, my world came crashing down, man. I got raided by everybody who had 3 initials on their chest, and very publicly. I got arrested in front of probably about 400 people. Front page of the paper, TV 20 News, all those fun things, and it just set me back huge. One of the things that broke my heart the most was I've always coached football. I always coached my kids. And I was asked not to coach my team anymore. Right. So I had to go to my players and let them know that Coach Rondo wasn't going to be able to coach him anymore. And that was really hard for me. My daughter, my kids were getting bullied in school for who their dad was.
Right.
I took about 2 weeks and really had a woe is me pity party. And then I realized that I didn't lose everything. I lost what was not important to me, and I had 4 kids and a beautiful wife that was looking at me on how I was going to react.
Sure.
So I set about trying to prove to them that I'm not the monster that the media and everybody else says it is, or how to overcome adversity. I had the opportunity to teach them a lesson. I had the opportunity to learn my own lesson too. And so I said, man, I got to go back to making money, and I'm going to go the way I know how, and that's going to be waiting tables, and that was a challenge.
It's amazing to me because for so many people, that's where the story would end.
Yeah.
Would be, woe is me, down on my luck. You said nobody'd hire you in Ocala.
Yeah, I went from being what I thought was Mr. Hospitality in Ocala, leading the sales everywhere I've ever been, and running restaurants based on the way I serve tables. Not many servers get to open up their own restaurant based on the way that they serve their guests. And so I reached out to a bunch of restaurants in Marion County, and nobody would hire me. They wouldn't even talk to me or interview me. And so that was a humbling experience,
Sure.
So I had to go back to the Villages. A buddy of mine opened up had a restaurant in the Villages, and he hired me on the spot. But that was a very humbling experience. Put that apron back on was a very humbling experience.
You had to take a big step back. You're a successful business owner, restaurant owner, running the party every night. And now you've gone back to, were you waiting tables at that time?
Yeah, I went back to waiting tables, in the Villages. And it was humbling. Because I knew a lot of people in the Villages from my time in the Villages. The restaurant I worked at was very popular, especially at night. So a lot of the people would come down there and they would be shocked to see me, and they would make the comment that I didn't want to hear, like, man, what are you doing here? And it's like, well, I'm feeding my family, man, So I opened up a catering company at the same time because I've always loved catering. And for the first year, nobody wanted anything to do with me. So the only way that I can be able to cater something was to be able to give my food away, to donate my food. Oftentimes, the people on the board would be like, hey, Rondo, man, I really wanted you, man, but nobody, they didn't want anything to do with you. I got voted down. I was kind of like, nobody wanted anything to do with me at all. So, but if I gave my food away, that would give them at least the opportunity to say, well, he's giving us the food, right? So
can't say no.
No, so I would wait tables, and then I would take that money, and then I would buy food so I could give it away, so I could be a part of that whatever event is that I thought would help me get to where I'm at. So I did that for almost 2 years, man. I gave away at least 50% of the food that I catered, and then in 2009. I was able to open up the little Mojo spot. I had a really good friend of mine, buddy of mine, that just believed in me.
Yeah.
And he asked me how much I needed. I was way off on my budget that I thought I needed, but he gave me the money to open up my first little spot of Mojo's.
So how did that? So when did you start thinking about, I'm going to open another restaurant?
The day that I lost Rondo's.
Okay. So immediately you're thinking, this is temporary, I will be back.
Yeah.
Wow, what a spirit you have, just to say, look, I don't care what's going on, I'm going to be successful.
Yeah.
So then, when did you start planning for the new restaurant? So that immediately.
Sure.
But the friend comes and says, I'll back you. Mm-hmm. So July 2009. You mentioned this the other day, and I can't remember. You said it was how many seats or how many tables?
Yeah, we had 12 tables in there and 12 employees. And the day that I turned my open sign on, I had $50 in the bank.
Wow.
You know, and if you talk to any business plan writers, that's not the way to do it. No. And for the first couple of years, man, I struggled, man. I was using my sales tax money to pay bills, right, and then paying the interest and everything on that and paying that back.
That's stressful.
Yeah, and it's 10% too.
Sure.
So it was quite costly as well. And I remember, not having the money to pay the electric bill, so the electric get cut off. Oof. And then we would put a sign on the window, and I'm sure some of you guys listening are gonna remember seeing the sign. You might even see the sign. And I would say, door closed due to plumbing, or restaurant, plumbing issues. So we would go out.
It was the electric.
Yeah, we would go out and try to find the money to cover the electric. And when we did, we'd have a plumbing issue. That would close the door. Wow. And it was just constant. That was just that constant. But it made us who we are today,
So I remember we were 2 blocks up the street. Mm-hmm. So we would come in there a couple times a week. And like I said earlier, one of my favorite things, we'd walk in and you were behind the grill and we'd greet everybody that came in. But just seeing that, you owning the business, but you're working your tail off as like someone coming in to eat at the restaurant, it was very inspiring. Like I knew, okay, when I go support, Mojo's, I'm supporting this guy that's working his butt off. And so I think that, one of the things we talked about was replicating, Mojo's. One of the challenges is replicating Rondo in Mojo's. So that's something you're working towards as you kind of add restaurants.
Yeah, especially now. I'm almost never in the restaurant. I'm more in the office, and just really relying on my management team to, it's the passion, right? How do you replicate your passion? And I don't think any owner of any business has ever found somebody who's going to be passionate about their business the way they are.
It's challenging.
So you have to find out what you're okay with and what you're not okay with, and what's doable and what's not doable. Because sometimes your passion can be very exhausting to your leadership team.
Definitely.
Yep. And I'm not the operational guy that you are. I'm the vision caster, man. I'm a free spirit. I'm a parrot, And so while you had to learn how to be the salesperson, I'm in the middle of having to learn how to be the operational person and how to be a owner of a big company now.
No, I can relate. So what I've learned through reading and some of the stuff that I've studied a little bit about being an entrepreneur and being successful in trying to grow your business is, generally speaking, the visionary, the person that starts the business, is exhausting for those that are trying to implement all of your ideas.
Exactly right.
And so it's so hard to communicate that vision, to be able to say, here's what I'm seeing, and be disciplined enough not to move to that next idea before that last one's in place. Yeah. So no, I totally get it. So 2009, terrible economy. How was it starting a restaurant in sort of that environment?
It's horrible.
Yeah.
What really killed us was Taylor Bean and Whitaker.
Yeah.
Because we were getting 30 to 40 employees from them, which everybody's like, hallelujah, right? There's a bunch of people out there, but there's a bunch of people out there that are like, yeah, that killed me too, man.
Well, I worked there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when that went down, that hit us hard because we were getting 30 to 40 employees from there every day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But other than that, it was good for us, to have a small footprint because it wasn't hard to fill 12 tables.
Right.
We had a really good following. That's why I kept the Rondo's menu because I knew it worked. We just needed to operate it better, and make some changes and make some changes with myself too. But it was great to be able to be small, and then we grew quick again, right? Yeah. So in 2000, right in the beginning of 2011. We opened up in Bellevue, and then after that it was just gasoline in a match. We just exploded. We went by the police department. Then we moved to a bigger spot in Bellevue. Then we moved to a bigger spot in Ocala. Then we opened up another in Ocala.
So I guess I had gotten my timing mixed up. So you were still in the spot downtown when Bellevue opened.
Yep.
Okay, and so from downtown, the place you're talking about, you were in the where the zone is, that shopping center?
Yeah, that was after downtown, but we had Bellevue open before that.
Okay, all right. And then where did you go from? Was that you went from that shopping center to where you are now on 200 or behind? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, the great thing about that building that I'm at now at Target, so as a kid, I want to say that Roadhouse opened up there probably about 92, right around there. I graduated in 93, but I remember we barely came to Ocala because I lived way out in the scrubs, but I would drive by that building and be like, man, I want to have a restaurant there. I want to have a restaurant there. I just loved the way the Roadhouse was mapped out. You know, Roadhouse for us was like a special occasion place. I guess kind of like an Outback was, you know, as a teenager. I would walk in there and I even remember the guy who was grilling the steaks actually worked for me.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, so
cool.
It was pretty cool. You know, they had the open thing, they're cutting the steaks, man, just the layout of it. And I was like, man, it would be such a dream of mine to be able to have a restaurant there. And to know that I have a restaurant there now is it's something that I don't forget about. You know, it's something that when I walk in there every single day, it still hits me how blessed I am to be able to live my dream. You know, and somebody asked me what my goals are. I can't tell you, man, because I have to come up with new goals just about yearly, you know.
Because you're achieving your goals.
We are achieving my goals, our goals. You know, I'm definitely not doing it by myself, man.
Sure.
I have a wonderful team, man, and I have a God that reaches out and He comforts me and He gives me what He thinks I can handle.
Yeah,
and
that's incredible.
So every day I just count my blessings, I guess is the best way to say it. You know, when I walk into that restaurant, it's like, you know, not only do I have the other three, but for some reason that store means a lot to me. It is.
So then what was that day like that you opened your doors in that building? Was it surreal?
We didn't have time to be surreal.
Too busy.
We must have had 600 people there at our ribbon cutting. You know, it was nuts. You know, we took over a failing restaurant called Tango's, which is an Argentinian spot, and we kept the other one by the police department open at the same exact time. And what we had to do was have a good night there to be able to paint the walls of the new one, and we had to have a good weekend there to be able to patch the booths, you know, and so it was slow going.
That's
you
crazy.
know, it was, and that's how close. And when we opened up that one downtown, or the one right now, again, we were very close in the bank.
Yeah,
we didn't have any reserves. You know, if we would have tanked or something bad would have happened, or even if they would have held us up one more week from inspection, we probably would have been belly up.
No kidding.
We didn't have the money to make that bridge.
I mean, I think, I don't know if every business owner, but I feel like my experience similar. There were times where it's like, man, if this doesn't come through, then I'm going back to work, you know, at somebody else.
Yes, sir.
But it's just crazy how thin that margin was. So sleepless nights.
Yeah, and you got to think too, man. I wasn't Christian back then either, so I was kind of running on Rondo power. That's a whole lot different than running on God power.
Sure.
You know? So a lot more peace, man, when you have Christ in your heart, you know. But so yeah, man, a lot of sleepless nights, you know. But I've never been a worrier,
right?
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've always been. I'll take it as it comes. You know, I don't understand people worrying about something up into a frenzy. In my life, the other shoe's always dropped, you know, at some point in time.
Right.
So I don't know if going through those hardships has helped me get to that point, you know. But if you wasting to me, worrying about something is wasting your time.
Sure.
You know, even with my kids, I don't worry about when they leave if they're going to get in an accident and I've seen parents that are like that, you know, and they can't sleep at night. It's like you have to trust that what you've done or where you're going is good enough. If not, then you face it. You know, if you start worrying about facing it before it even becomes a reality, that's just going to wear you out.
I agree with you in concept, but in practice, it's hard.
Yeah, man. So we did a 5K one time, and there was a blueberry something or other. I forgot who the benefactor was for it, but it was not on paved streets, man. It was like through a farm. And man, I'm going on rocky roads. We went through a horse thing, and man, it was the most physically challenging thing I've ever done in my whole life. So then, right before the end of it, I'm really serious about to quit. I mean, I've had a conversation with God. I've had a conversation with myself. I've had a conversation with people I didn't even know, and mentally. And here's this huge hill. I mean, a big grassy hill. And I started I went to take it on, man, and I'm looking up at the hill, and I am a fraction away from quitting. I mean, I want to quit. And I'm already looking about where I can quit, or I can sit down, or I can get a drink. And then finally I said to myself, I just looked down. So I just looked at the grass. And I just started trucking, man. And I didn't lift my head not one time. I just looked at the blade of grass in front of me, and the blade of grass in front of me. And next thing you know, I was at the top of the hill.
Sure.
And the rest of it was downhill from there. And it was an emotional time for me because I never pushed myself to that, other than football. I've never pushed myself to that point. And it taught me a very valuable lesson. Sometimes you can look like what you said. You're looking at this big old mountain, which seemed like at the time, to me, looking at that big mountain had me worried up to a point where I just knew I couldn't make it, and I was going to quit. But instead, I just looked down and I just concentrated on each step in front of me, and it got me to the top of the hill. And that was an important learning experience for me.
It is a great analogy for life.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sayings is, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time.
Amen.
And that's when you're looking at the whole thing, it looks daunting, it looks impossible, but when you break it down to that simple step, and that's a great physical representation of that.
And ketchup, man. I imagine elephants got to be good with ketchup.
There you go. Now, any more 5Ks since then?
No, man. That was my last one. I just need to ask more questions,
So I've started couch to 5K like 4 or 5 times, and I've just said, forget it.
Yeah.
So
can't get it done.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk through was, I remember when you were opening the 40 location, and it was Horse and Hounds, Mojo's is coming out there, and it just seemed to get stalled. So what were the challenges involved with that, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so another thing, man, just running my business the way I knew how, and I was in a chaotic fashion. So just like I said, I was never good in operations. I've always been a vision guy. So I was taking advantage of every opportunity that was thrown at me, even though they were causing me to lose money, and not focus on running what I had, what God had put in front of me. We moved out to Ocala National. We signed it all at one time. We moved out to Ocala National, signed up in Gainesville, and then signed a lease with Horse and Hounds. And that was probably the stupidest thing I've ever done in my whole life. It costed me probably about $1 million.
Wow.
Trying to make up for all those losses. We've paid everybody back to the dollar, which is huge for me. But we had to, I had to make a decision we got to make a hard decision to get out of Ocala National. We got to give up the lease that we have in Gainesville. And not only that was that a challenge for us, but the construction, some of the stuff was supposed to remain into the building. Your hood systems, your walk-ins, all that stuff. And the previous tenant yanked it all out. And that was unforeseen to us.
Right.
And so that was a huge cost. I mean, you're talking about another $100,000 that we didn't have, that it was going to take. So we were really, really, really close to giving up on that lease as well. And that would have been a really tough challenge for our company. Because we would have faced some legal issues. And
well, not only that, didn't you say that's now a great location for you guys?
It's our number one location.
Right.
Yeah, we were really, really close to not opening up 40 and just concentrating on Bellevue and the one by Target. And we opened up the one on 40. I think it's a really beautiful location.
Sure.
And but it took, like I said, it took us a year to get it going, and that's part of the $1 million that we lost, was keeping that going and try to go. So 2014 was just a really, really bad year for me and for us. And
so how did you make that decision? You're at a point where you're saying, okay, we can either pull the plug or we can push through.
Yeah.
So what was that decision process like?
It made better financial sense to open it, because we were going to face some pretty big legal problems for us. So it was cheaper for us to open it than it was for us to not open it.
Okay.
So I wound up partnering with Ken Kirkpatrick and Tim Dixon. You'll know those guys. They run a management company that manages and owns the Sonny's Group.
Right.
I was, like I said, I've always been really bad at operations. I've been good at the guest experience, the promotion, the atmosphere, all that stuff. Yep. But when it came to all the back office stuff and the accounting and all the HR and all that stuff, I was doing a horrible job at it. So I was spending a lot of money trying to recreate the wheel that they have. We worship together. We were in a small group together, so that's how I got to meet those guys. So I asked for them to do my back office stuff for a year. That whole year that we didn't open up 40 was kind of a trial period of how we could work together if we were ever to become partners. And it wound up becoming a great partnership. So in 2015, we became partners. And it's called Mojo Management. It's a management company that manages restaurants. So we're hoping there's going to be more concepts in that. But cool. But God just put those guys in my life at the right time. They helped me, really stable the ship and really come up with a plan on how to pay that $1 million back, and we did it. 2015. So, to me, that's another time where I had to start my life over again. From 2009, I had to start my life over again. In 2014, I had to start my life over again, because I lost everything again.
Right.
And we just set out a really good roadmap. Everybody we owed money to, we gave them a map. And it was tough because some of the people we owed money to, they weren't going to get paid for 8 months. We showed them. We're like, this person has priority. I owed IRS and all those people. They
have priority.
They have priority. So there was, my food vendor had priority.
Absolutely.
But I showed them in that map. And what was really important is that we didn't veer off that map the entire time. So when we said we're going to pay somebody, we paid somebody. When we said we were to the T, and we paid everybody back, and that was huge for our company. And it was huge for the people inside our company to see that.
It's incredible
that we had that integrity, and our food vendors and everybody else are just great partners to us.
Yeah. So business ownership is definitely an ebb and flow, right?
Yeah.
I've been in a hole, maybe not quite as deep, but it's scary. You're in this hole. You have your family relying on you, but then you have every single person that works with you, their family's relying on you. And so it just adds a lot of weight. So there's highs, but there's definitely some lows.
Yeah, and we've kind of did like a little halfway audit, and there's almost 1,000 people relying on us.
Wow.
If you talk about not only my employees, but we have employees that are raising their brothers or sisters, their aunts or uncles or grandparents or mom.
Absolutely.
If you add that in, there's over 1,000 people that are relying on Mojo's to be successful, in this community.
For sure.
So
well, I'm relying on you for, like, I went Friday for the chicken wings.
That's what I'm talking about, bro.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the things that I thought was kind of almost humorous, you had hired a consultant to come in, and you guys just redid the logo, and you said one of the questions they asked was, so your name is Mojo's Grill, but where's the grill, right? Were there other things like that you said, okay, maybe you missed as the owner that they brought to your attention that you're kind of like, oh, great question?
Yeah, it was great. It was a restaurant branding company that came up with that logo right there. Very expensive logo, by the way.
Well, it's very nice.
It is very nice. It's just, all the multicolors that we had, learning that was tough to read. We did a focus group, and they called it elementary, and they called it a Mexican place, and they called it hard to read. It was
the
tough.
Mexican place, but the hard to read and
it was
all that.
Tough.
That was probably
elementary.
Tough.
Looks like a kid did it. While in Marion County, everybody recognized the rainbow colored kind of deal and the shape of it. In Leesburg, in Lake County, our first time we ventured out of Marion County, it was tough for them to read. It was, and in Mojo Grill, we don't grill anything.
Right.
We grill our burgers and some of our wings. Other than that, we don't have steaks, we don't have chops, we don't have, so that was confusing to people. And just the logo itself just needed to get redone. Everybody already called the place Mojo's anyways.
Yeah.
So having a grill and catering company, it was tough to hear their feedback on our logo.
Right.
And how does it was great to work with them because not only that, but they also gave us branding filters. Our colors, so everybody who does our colors, we were struggling with that. Every time we got a new printer or a new clothing, the colors were different or there was an outline on one. So now we have a tool that we can use to make sure that our branding is exact, that it's what fits in our brand.
Right.
We have these filters that does it fit in the food, does it fit in the music, does it fit in the soul, So soul is also the community too, and the faith aspect. So that was feedback from them too. Like I had John 3:16 on every single one of my menus. And for those of you watching, if you know John 3:16, it just means you're loved, right? So God loves you. So that was really important. So we did John 3:16 every menu, and their feedback was that it might not be so inclusive to people, and it might be a turnoff to people. We have a cross hanging in some of our restaurants, you know. So they said, you know, like Chick-fil-A, everybody knows Chick-fil-A is Jesus chicken, right? But they don't have a cross, and they don't. So they let their actions speak for them to let them know that they live it. So I wasn't entirely excited about just trying to live it. I wanted also to be in there. So that's why we have the faith based. Obviously, you have a halo and angel wings around the M and in the soul part, and in every one of my restaurants will have 200 does. You know, if you pull up to 200, it says you are loved, real big. So that's based off of John 3:16, right? Yeah. So you can say something like that, but you don't have to hit them with the scripture, you know. And on the other side, it says let your soul shine. Sure. So, and that's Matthew 5:16. So, you know, where it talks about the salt and the light of the earth. Sure. You know, so I get to take those cool, and it's also a great almond brother too. So we get to take some things like that and fit it in. You know, we have the Leonard Skinner quote from Simple Man where it says, "Don't forget, son, there's someone up above." You know, so just those types of little things. Yeah. We do those little side punches with the faith, but it was great to do a restaurant branding company to hear their perspective on that.
Well, it's a great transition to one of the things I wanted to touch on, and that is, I would say, and I hadn't like kind of thought of this or put this together, but you definitely, and Mojo's definitely lives that part of the mission or of, you know, the soul and being a soul of the community. You know, I was thinking through as I was preparing all of the different charitable, you know, organizations you're a part of, but also, you know, Trunk or Treat, you know, which we participated in this year, is huge. I couldn't believe the number of people that were, you know, and this was at 40. Do you do it? Was it just mainly?
Just at 40.
Okay. Boy, it was tremendous, the number of people that were there. So, The Rock. So is that an organization that you started, or okay? Can you tell us a little bit about The Rock and the mission?
Sure. So The Rock basically is a classroom on school property. We have 10 that a kid can get a pass from a teacher and get food, clothing, hygiene, feminine hygiene, school supplies. When they walk in there, they're met with a volunteer who takes them around, takes them shopping, talks to them, mentors them a little bit if they need to. And we see about 400 kids a day during school. And the reason why I started was my experience in growing up. You know, we grew up out in the scrubs. If you guys don't know where the scrubs are, it's almost towards Umatilla, you know, down 42 over Nelson's Fish Camp, behind Buck and Doe's over there. So
wow, it's out there.
And a kid coming up from Miami, a Cuban kid coming up from Miami and moving into the scrubs was a huge eye opener for me. But you know what it did? It opened up my eyes to rural poverty and how the lack of hope and the despair that is in that community. You know, it's there's no trash service, you know, so their trash, if you don't have a car that can take the garbage 5 miles down the road to the compactor, basically what you do is you open up your door and you throw it outside. Big mounds of trash in front of yards is a constant, you know, plywood floors, no windows, tarps on the roof, no pest control. So going over a buddy's house, German cockroaches are just part of the landscape. You know, when you get silverware, you just know you're going to have to wash it off. And then meth hit out there. So we have kids that are going home, they're cooking meth for their parents or selling meth for their parents. They're hooked on meth themselves, prostituting themselves. Parents are prostituting their children. And it's just a huge problem. It was going to be impossible for us to be able to go out into the forest and impact everybody.
Right.
So what we decided to do is have a place of refuge at the school called The Rock. And we opened up our first one at Lakeward High School, where I went to school, and very quickly it became very popular. So they were coming in just for refuge. Sure. You know, sometimes that 10 minutes that during The Rock was the best part of their day. You know, the volunteers become part of their life. We've helped kids get braces because they have a speech impediment. They're getting bullied. You know, we had girls that were missing school because they didn't have feminine hygiene. Right. So you have these girls that are missing these periods of time. And at some point in time, they just drop out. Wow. And So we take care of all that. Glasses. We have students that come with cracks and rubber bands and tape. We had one kid who didn't have one. He only had one lens for 2 years, and it's impossible for those kids to be who God called them to be when they're lacking for those basic needs. So we take care of glasses. Partnered up with some great businesses that help us do the glasses, and it's changed the culture of the schools. The kids now can. We call it giving them hope for the future by giving them power in the presence. And you can't tell these kids it's going to be okay if they're starving right now or they're being abused and all that type of stuff. So that's how the Rock started. It really went great at Lake Weir, and then we went to North Marion, and then the most popular one is probably the one at Forest High School. They asked us to open up in the same room the shooting happened. So just about every Rock room that we've been given has been a negative room. Has been ISS or where the shooting happened. So we've been able to take a room that has a negative vibe to it and turn it into something positive, and provide. So now we have kids that are ministering to other students. They're becoming student-led.
Yeah. So
what it's done, it's allowed for the conversations to happen. It's shined light on the fact that the kid next to you can be struggling.
Yeah.
So now we have kids. The best thing is, man, when you have another kid, bringing another kid in and go, look, man, here, you can have this, you can have that. So it gives them a purpose as well.
How's that funded? Is it 100% private?
Yeah, it's all private fund.
Okay.
It's me knocking on doors again with my little tote of candy. Man, we sure need your help. So it's all private funded. People can go through their closets and drop off clothes, and we do shoe drives and
where would they drop that off if somebody wanted to?
Yeah, they can go on Facebook. There's a Rock Program Facebook page called the Rock Program, and they can just hit us up.
Okay.
We have storage over there across from the Y.
All right.
In that school there. They gave us a portable. So my wife is the one who kind of meets people there and does that. But it's a great program, man. It's really changing the culture of the schools.
It is. It is a great program. So what's going on now that we're in the time that would be summer? So what's the plan? I guess if we're going back to in-person school, then it'll just start back up in the fall?
Yeah, we're hoping. We just had to find out how we're going to do it, right?
Okay.
So I think our volunteers are not going to be allowed on campus to start. So we had to figure that out. So we work very well with the guidance counselors. So maybe the student can now go to the guidance counselor and get walked down there. We're not sure. And we have a new superintendent. So hopefully she's supportive of the program. So that's kind of a nervous time for us too. It seems like she's going to be very supportive of it, but you never know.
You don't. It's hard to imagine that would be the case, but I can imagine. Is there anything that we or those watching we can do to help?
No, I think we're good, except for when on social media and I post that we need help with shoes or something. Yeah, just kind of jump in,
What about? Do you seek charitable contribution or monetary support for the Rock?
Yeah, we do. We haven't yet because I'm not sure what it's going to look like. And plus everybody's just hurting, right? Coming through COVID, and I just have the hardest time asking anybody for anything, But at some point in time, we're going to have to get serious, and we think we're going to hold a fundraising breakfast, invite everybody through, and because we have FCA Empower too, that's a part of the Rock, and that's a faith-based sports program that we're with FCA now, and we've had 120 kids give their life to Christ this year, which has been really cool.
Sure.
It's all about giving them hope and giving them a purpose, because if you don't have those two things, chances are you're not going to make it, man. So if you can give those kids a purpose at an early age and give them hope at an early age, that's a huge step for them.
So I've seen that you've organized a number of food drives for various, I think, service workers. And who else have you done that for? Has it been primarily for those that work in the food service industry?
Yeah, we did. I think the first 3 or 4 weeks it was just for service industry, and then we opened it up with for everybody. Partnered up with Chris Spears and Prestige and First Baptist Church. Opened up where they're great enough to open up the doors, and then His Compassion jumped on. It just seemed like every week more people came and supported it and jumped on. And
so how many people have you served through that?
Woo! A lot.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, we would average probably 500 cars a day. The last one was probably about 1,000 cars, 1,200 cars. And everybody that pulled in said there was multiple family. And so, I think our average was giving away about 34 to 38 tons of food every Saturday.
38 tons of food.
It was 18 wheelers just full.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody that came through got a lot. They got an abundance. And a lot of times they would text me back or put on social media that, I shared it with 3 or 4 families on, we would give away a case of tomatoes, things like that, So people would say that they shared it with the people on their block and things.
So I guess my question with the support for the Rock, you see that support's needed elsewhere. Mm-hmm. What do you see as sort of our greatest need in the county right now? And I apologize. I know I didn't tell you.
I think the biggest, the greatest need in our county right now is fathers.
Yeah,
we need fathers in our children's lives. We need strong families again.
Mm-hmm.
So much of social media and the new whatever you want to read is just tearing the family model down.
Yeah.
And I don't think they see what the direct thing of it. I mean, if you look at what happens when you don't have a father, a strong family. Mm-hmm. If you look at the rate of those kids going to jail, if you look at the rate of those kids being abused, drugs, all that stuff, it's astounding.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like 70% more likely to go to jail. And when I talk to the kids, like when I go to the kids' detention center and all that, it's that same pattern.
Right.
These kids have never had a chance in their life. And then when we see them in the Rock, they never had a chance. A lot of times we think a kid's a bully or a thug or a piece of crap or a punk, right? Yeah. You see that, right? You see a kid do something bad and we call them a punk. In reality, they're doing what they're perfectly designed to do. Mm-hmm. We've designed them to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think mentorship, anybody that can be a part of a program that's doing great stuff for kids, our foster kid programs, that's our biggest need. We need the sentence that says it takes a village to raise a child is not a lie. Mm-hmm. We as a village need to raise these children because we used to have, the dad would go off, and then the mom was strong. Now we have mom without dad, and so if the mom's not strong, now you have just a lost kid.
Right.
As a kid growing up, we all had friends that had messed up parents or crazy parents, right? They were partying, but the grandparent was always strong, right? Or somebody in that family model was strong. Now we have that messed up parent is now a messed up grandparent who raised another messed up parent, and it's just a factory, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. So, that's why I'm supporting programs like the Rock and the Boys and Girls Club and Kids Central and all those ones that take care of Kimberly Center, the ones that take care of the kids. Support those programs, whether you support us or not. Find somebody who can use some help in supporting those programs because it's such a daunting task. And going back to where we went earlier, we talked about eating an elephant, where I said take the first step, it's such a daunting task. There's so many kids need to be saved that sometimes you have no idea what to do. So, the Bible says the heavens rejoice when one is saved, and Jesus goes after the one and leaves the 99 behind.
Sure.
So that shows me that one soul is important and one soul should be important to us too,
Absolutely.
So it's up to us to find out who needs it and save one kid's life.
Right.
Help one parent, one young parent become a better parent. I think that's the biggest need.
That's such a great point because we look at it and you look at the systemic problem, and it seems impossible to fix. Mm-hmm. But you can impact one person.
Yeah.
That's a great message.
And you never know what's going to happen to that one person you impact.
Absolutely. So I think. I've gone through everything that I kind of had, and this has been as amazing or more so than I had expected. Yeah. Before I kind of close this out, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about? Do you want to talk about where Mojo's is headed, or do you want to, is there anything else that you want to cover before we sort of...
Yeah, okay. I'm good, man. So as far as Mojo's, we want to be the first Marion County restaurant to ever be a chain. That's our goal. I have a great leadership team.
Yeah.
I have great employees. I think I have the best staff that I've ever had, which I'm really, really excited about.
Sure.
I want to make Mojo so much more than a restaurant, and I want my employees to have a purpose, because when you give, like I said, when you give somebody a purpose, man, their whole life changes, right?
Absolutely.
Your life focuses in, and you know what you're doing, and so I hope that my staff, I love when my staff buys a house or buys a car, or that's how I count my success. Is to make sure they have what they need, and I think through the COVID thing we did a really good job. We have a team pastor for every Mojo's. So my folks have somebody to talk to, and so I just want to really build our foundation of Mojo's, and our goal hopefully one day is to be the first Marion County chain to come out.
Sure. Well, it feels like you're well along that path. Is that something that you can define that says, okay, I'm this, like, what is the marker to say, okay, we're ready to go outside of here?
Well, so Leesburg is still struggling, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first Leesburg that doesn't have the relationships that we've built in Marion County, or the Rondo effect, or whatever you want to call it. And we're struggling. With this COVID thing, people are supporting their community restaurants, and we're not that yet in Leesburg. So if Leesburg was on fire and it proved that the Mojo's model can work outside of Marion County, then that would be our driver to open up another one. But It hasn't yet. So it's been a focus of ours to, we were hitting some really good momentum coming into this March. Hitting some good momentum in Leesburg, and then COVID just killed us, man. And unfortunately for us, a lot of our demographic around there is older, so they're staying home, and so it's going to be a challenge. But if Leesburg caught on fire, we would already have another one open.
I got you.
So that's our indicator.
Yeah. Well, I know whenever we have people that visit from out of town, especially somebody that we've taken to Mojo's previously, that's what they say. Well, I definitely want to make sure we go by Mojo's, and I think part of that is the consistency that you get when you go to a place like Mojo's. We can go to 240 Bellevue, wherever, and you know what you're getting. And I think that's always key. So it feels, from a consumer standpoint, that you've got to be really close.
It's a challenge. That's a challenge every single day. I have somebody that his only job is to go around all the stores to make sure the food's consistent, and it's a challenge, man. It's like herding cats, it's a challenge, but I think we're getting closer and closer and closer. Yeah. So we're hoping that one day that will be great. We'll be able to bottle all of our sauces so they're really consistent. We make everything scratch made in the house. Each store makes their own stuff. Our dressings are all scratch made. Yeah. So it's a challenge to make sure that whoever's working in all four stores makes the ranch the same every single day. And so there's a lot of room for error. And sometimes we don't come through, man. But
like I said, it feels close.
It feels close. I just want to make Marion County proud of not only myself but of Mojo's.
Well, I don't know if I can speak for all. I feel like I can, though. I think Marion County is very proud. From the 2007 to 2009, and then rebuilding the restaurant, and then everything that you've done for the community. There's just no way. Everybody, and speaking personally, but then also kind of globally here,
I appreciate
everybody's very proud to have you as a part of the community, for sure.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So what was the origin of the Mojo's name?
I'm a big blues guy. Right, so Mojo's has two different meanings. So I'm also Cuban American, and everything that we eat growing up was marinated in mojo, which is, but it both means the same thing. So because there is a deep voodoo culture in the Cuban, and it's called Santeria,
right.
So that came over with the slaves. Also the same religion that came over to New Orleans and all that. So that word mojo has the same meaning, and it means a magic, or an aura, a karma, when you got your mojo working, man.
Cool. Yeah.
Like Fonzie, right? Fonzie back in the day, man, he had his mojo working at all times, right?
Nice.
So that's what that means, and on the food too, when we use mojo on it, you add that extra little seasoning to it. So it was a double meaning for me, but I'm a big blues guy, man. I just absolutely love the blues.
Well, and it permeates the restaurant.
Yeah.
When we went on Friday, my daughter, who's 7, she goes, hey, those guys that are always here have the mask on. And I look around, and she's pointing at the Blues Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
They're wearing their masks. Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's a great part about Mojo's, man. If you look at Mojo's, it is me cut in half.
Yeah, for sure.
I love the color blue, obviously, right? And I love the blues. I love. I just love music. I love the animal from from the Muppets. So he's hanging
sure,
upside
the
down
drummer.
on every single drummer. He's hanging from every single drum in every Mojo's.
I didn't notice that. I've noticed it on 40. Now that you mention it, yeah, okay. Oh, that's great.
Every single one, man.
Yeah.
I love Elvis. So every Elvis, every Mojo's has an Elvis, Velvet Elvis.
Okay.
I have a Velvet Elvis collection at 200.
Yeah, in the
private room.
In the room, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really cool, man, to be able to take your personality and what you're passionate about and throw it on the wall.
Well, and to see it resonate with everybody,
Yeah.
to see it kind of come through, that's pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
So talk to me about how each restaurant's decorated.
Yeah, so my wife knows me, right? And my wife knows what I'm passionate about and what I love, and she takes my vision and she makes it come to fruition. And it's not always been perfect. We never fight, never ever argue until we go to decorate a restaurant. And because she's as stubborn as I am, but just about everything you see in Mojo's is her design.
Oh.
And
She's got a good eye.
she has a phenomenal eye.
Sure.
And we're to the point now where we're not arguing about decoration.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's been huge. Leesburg was a lot of, I would leave out angry, and I'm telling you, we never argue, ever argue. But when it comes to decorating a restaurant, man, because she lets her stubbornness come out,
Sure.
and so do I. But everything you see inside Mojo's, as far as color scheme and everything, is all her, and she's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. What I think is a real testament to that is just the consistency among the restaurants, because they each have their own flavor and feel, but you can see that theme kind of come through.
Yeah, that was a goal to have a couple of standout points that you just know you're in a Mojo's when you see it.
Yep.
Especially when you're sitting underneath a drum set,
With an animal.
hanging
upside
from
down.
it.
So you've mentioned that obviously faith's a big part of your life. You have a strong management team. You guys have so many challenges. So what is it that inspires you? How do you stay so passionate and so energetic?
Man, that's a good question. Just knowing that what you're doing is right keeps your passion going. It's really tough, but you have to have that mentality, right? So all over my body, I have important scripture tattooed to me. I know it says in the Bible don't have tattoos, but I'll have to deal with that with Jesus later on.
I saw a speaker that had that verse of Leviticus tattooed on his arm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, on my right knee, it says Luke 12:48, where it says, much is given, much is expected. And I gave my life to Christ when I was 40. So this next week will be 6 years. And it just changed me. And realized that the way he changed my life and the way that he put my life into perspective means that I've been given much. And that's why I feel like much has been given. So that keeps me to continue to have the passion. And when I do his work and when I do those things that he asks me to do, they work, right? So when God puts me in an uncomfortable position to, for instance, we did a panel of mixed pastors to talk about race.
Yeah.
And I was physically sick going into that. That was the one time I had anxiety and worried because I didn't feel like I had a right to call a bunch of pastors and business leaders together to talk about something like that.
Sure.
And I just kept hearing God tell me to do that.
Yeah.
And we did it, and I kept trying to make it work the way I wanted it to work, and I was fumbling and bumbling. And then finally I just said, man, God, you called us to be here. You take over.
Sure.
And then when I let that happen, I was so emotional on the way home. I was crying on the way home because it turned out far better than I could ever dream it would ever turn out. And our goals that we set for the evening were so far surpassed when you let him do that. And that's what builds my faith, And then whenever I feel like I don't want to do something that I hear him call me to do, I have send me Isaiah 6:8. You have to have that mentality. All through the Bible, he's asking for people to do things for him. And so that's what gets me out of bed at night, to do those types of things. If we don't care for those kids that we do for every day at the Rock, who's going to? Right. I'm sure somebody might step up into our absence, but that's not a chance I'm willing to take. So whenever I'm scared, whenever I'm intimidated, which doesn't happen much for me, and that's because I know I have the strength that God gives me. So in Ephesians 1:19, it says we have an incomparably great power for those who believe. I rely on that power every single day of my life, you know. And not only that, but it almost makes you feel like a superhero. Like we can get through anything. I mean, I say yes to some crazy, stupid stuff, you know. And next thing you know, we have 18-wheelers and all the community leaders, and we're feeding 40 tons of food. And that's not me. That's not Chris Spears. That's not his compassion.
Right.
That's God. Just like get out of my way and let me show you how to do this.
It takes a lot of guts though to like really ask God, what do you want of me, and then to act on it. Because I know a lot of us are too scared to ask because we don't want to have to act on it. So
and you know what's funny, man, is God talks to you every single day. You know, it's just up to us to be able to listen and learn to it and be available. You know, and just do your fundamentals, man. You know, every time that I don't feel like getting out of bed, every time that I feel timid is because I've strayed from my fundamentals. You know, my pastor would be like, "Hey, did you read the Bible? No. Have you been praying? No. Have you been going to church? No." It's like, no wonder you're struggling, bro. You know, and then also too, I have a team of pastors that minister to me. I need it. You know, I call my life is like a bowling alley. You know, and you know those bumpers that you put up for your kids.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, I need those bumpers in my life. If not, I go straight in the gutter.
Yeah.
So I just surround myself with people that I call my bumpers.
Right.
That keep me straight. And
that's a great analogy.
And not only my pastor is he awesome, he struggled with a lot of the same things I did. You know, we're too much alike.
Right.
So so I have a pastor that I reach on. He's a very well thought, planning, cerebral pastor. You know, I'm just blessed to have those people in my life that I can use as mentors and call on whenever I'm kind of second guessing something.
Sure.
You know, I have a group of guys, my small group, my men's group. Those guys hold me up every single day. You know, I struggle all the time. You know, but to have that my men's group, you know, a group of guys. I went in my men's group one time, just really struggling with an issue, and I was so embarrassed to say it. You know, and then finally at the end, I kind of broke down and just kind of blurted it out. And we were supposed to be leaving at the time.
Right.
And come to find out, man, the guy going across from me, he's dealing with that. You know, the older guy at the end of the table, he went through it 5 years ago, and this guy is dealing with, you know, and it's like, man, we just lifted each other up out of it, and that's what's important, and that's when you set those kind of people around your life. Like when I lost Rondo's, I set the wrong people around in my life, and then when it's like I can talk the Bible all day long. It's like the paralyzed guy, right? You know, his four buddies took him to go. You know, he the one thing he did right was surround himself with four guys that that loved him and that would do anything they could to get them to win to where he needed to be. You know what I mean? And my life didn't change until I did that. And that's a message that I give to my football players. That's a message I give to those kids that come to the Rock. You know, you have to surround yourself with people that want to see you win.
Yeah.
You know, because misery loves company. I was a testament to that because I was miserable in my early life, and I tried to get everybody. I figured if I can get everybody to do wrong, then everybody's doing right. It's got to be right if everybody's doing wrong. And I was a leader. You know, I've always been a leader in everything I've done, for good and bad. You know, so when I say my God gives me my strength to continue to go every single day, He absolutely gives me the strength to go every single day.
So it sounds like a lot of your story kind of boils down to your faith and then the people that you have around you, you know, and it's beautiful that you share that with kids. I'm going to need you to come to my house maybe and share it with mine.
Man, I will put my foot in the kid's butt, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. You know, and just like, you know, that 2 weeks of my time when it was woe is me in 2005, you know, having my wife and my four kids look at me and know they believed in me was starting point number one for me.
Wow.
You know, so I could have given up, and if I didn't have them, I probably would have been on another drug tirade or went out drinking and try to do what a lot of people often do, and they'll try to drown that memory away.
It just takes it down that
but I had
spiral.
You know, my back wasn't up against the wall because my wife was between the wall and me. So that's why I didn't fail. You know, because I had those people that believed in me to move me forward. And when you have those people, that gives you that purpose in your life. And, you know, we get touted for a lot of community stuff that we do, but for as many people say that I've done for them, they've done for me. You know, giving back and having that purpose in my life keeps me straight. It keeps me from falling to temptation. It keeps me from, I have a purpose in my life. I have hope in my life. I live a guilt-free life for the first time ever, and I think it's important that we try to help everybody
That's incredible.
Find that life.
Yeah, that's incredible. It shines through. Whenever I see you out doing another giveaway or another food drive or another, I think to myself, where is this energy coming from? Because I just get to the end of the day and I'm like, I'm so exhausted. It's incredible to watch you do that stuff.
Yeah, you got to hang out at the end, man, when I'm chafing and cussing and screaming. And that last food distribution, man, I was not in a good place at the end of it because the cars just kept coming, man. I wasn't giving joyfully like God asked me to.
But you were there. You were there.
I was there.
Yeah.
But I was short. Like, pull up. Screaming at people, So not all the time energy's there, but, I'm going to share one last story with you.
Please.
So when it goes to that trunk or treat, our first trunk or treat. So trunk or treat started by all these kids that didn't have costumes. And so it started by having Children's Home Society and Interfaith and Kid Central, having a trunk or treat for those types of kids. So we would do a costume drive, and at the end of the first trunk or treat, it was over there by the police department. Everybody left. All the volunteers left. All my staff left, and here's all these hay bales and trash and garbage out in the parking lot. So man, my back's hurting, my feet are hurting, and I was mad. And here comes this little bumblebee, and she was a 4-year-old whom her mom asked for a bumblebee costume. And she just kind of hugged my leg and said thank you, and that was it. We've never second guessed another trunk or treat after that. That little bumblebee
really turned around that situation.
Yeah, I wasn't cussing and mad anymore after that. She just kind of just shows you, man. So that's what I mean when you do something like that and you make a difference in somebody. It also a lot of times you think you're saving them, but it also saves you, and it gives you purpose, man.
Definitely.
Having that purpose in my life is what keeps me going.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Rondo, thank you so much for joining us. Again, thank you so much for watching Ocala Hustle. Please subscribe for future episodes like this. And, as Rondo shared, there's so much to be done in this community. Look for a way that you can change that one life. Thanks so much.